This conference will now be recorded.
Hi Mahesh, am I audible? My screen, I hope it is visible. So we discussed about CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability in our previous. We discussed in our previous session, and today we are going to refresh CIA, and then we'll jump into AAA. So confidentiality is the concept of measuring. It measures the use to ensure the protection of the secrecy of data. For example, if there is some confidential information or a secret data, secret information, then only the person who is authorized to have access should access, and others should not. So for that, there are some security controls that actually ensures the confidentiality of the data. So, for example, in a network, the confidentiality should be maintained so that it's protected from unauthorized access, disclosure while in storage, in process, and in transit. This can be including capturing network traffic and stealing password. For example, if the network they are using some protocols like HTTP instead of HTTPS, which is not secured, then the data will or the data will go or pass through those networks in clear text, and anyone who is intercepting the network or capturing the network traffic can steal passwords. So violation of confidentiality are not limited to directed international attack. Many instances of unauthorized disclosure of sensitive information results from human error, oversight, or ineptitude. So these are also some reasons through which the confidentiality can be breached. And also, like sometimes failing to encrypt their transmission can lead to disclosure of sensitive information and breach of confidentiality. So there can be numerous countermeasures that will help ensure confidentiality, like encryption, network traffic padding, strict access controls, etc. Again, confidentiality and integrity, these are dependent on each other. With without object integrity, in other words, the inability of an object to be modified without permission, confidentiality cannot be maintained. So this is object integrity, and without object integrity, confidentiality cannot be maintained. Other concepts, conditions, and aspects of confidentiality include sensitive data, discretion of critical discretion, sensitive discretion, critical concealments. These are like different. Concealing is the act of hiding or preserving disclosure. Concealment, secrecy, privacy, seclusion, isolation. So isolation is the act of keeping something separate from others and can be used to prevent information disclosure. So that's why different organization they can use they can use isolation, and then they can do like some thing called separation of duties or compartmentalization, through which like the information is not whole, actually it's compartmentalized, or you can say isolation also sometimes, that will keep something separate from others. Then integrity is a principle. It's also one of the main ingredients or pillars of the CIA trade, and is the concept of protecting the reliability of or correctness so that the data is intact and data is not tampered. So I have, I think, shown you an example of how we can compute hash and check the checksum of that file so that we can ensure the integrity of that data. So in any slight change or slight modification of the data will actually give us a very different hash value. If we compute a hash value after modification, that ensures that the data is tampered or modified, and that is an impact on the integrity. So we should check integrity and examine using three perspective: that preventing unauthorized subject from making modification, preventing authorized subject from making unauthorized modifications such as mistakes, and maintaining the internal and external consistency of objects so that their data is correct and true. Integrity to be maintained on a system. So for example, in different antivirus companies, they when you install or some programs, when you install, they will compute the integrity by computing the hash of each file, and then they will monitor. So if there is some change like due to unauthorized access by due to some cyber attack or unauthorized access by a hacker, then if they try to modify that file, then this hash value won't match and there will be some kind of alert. Like signature based antiviruses also, they can actually check for the integrity of different data or files. So numerous attack focus on the violation of integrity. I also given you the demonstration of the calculator, CVSS calculator, common vulnerability exposure uh, scoring system. Sorry, CVS is a common vulnerability scoring system calculator, where we see, or we could see different impact on, like what happens if there is an impact on confidentiality, if it is none, low, high, or based on these different impacts on CIA, right? Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Uh, the score rises or reduces, and then different companies give different priorities to the CIA, right? Like some of the company might give more priority to availability, like usually the non-IT industry like OT, operational technology, they used to, and IT is like more into they will focus on integrity, confidentiality, integrity, and also availability. So there are numerous countermeasures also that can ensure integrity against possible threat. Again, integrity also depends on confidentiality, accuracy being correct and precise, truthfulness, authenticity, validity being factually or logically sound, that we can validate the data, and non-repudiation. Non-repudiation is like not being able to deny having performed an action or activity, or being able to verify the origin of a communication or event. Then accountability, being responsible or obliged for actions and results, responsibility, completeness. So transaction logs, how we can ensure non-repudiation, that ensures that the subject of an activity or who caused an event cannot later deny that that event had occurred. For example, somebody sent an email and then later he or she is denying that I haven't sent that email, or maybe somebody deleted or installed some program in the computer or any server, then later they are denying that they haven't done such thing. So for that, to ensure non-repudiation, there's different controls actually. That means like it is possible through identification, authentication, authorization, and accountability and auditing. So, for example, organization can use digital certificates, session identifiers, transaction logs, and numerous other access control mechanism. So if this is a session identifier, if someone logged in and did something, that session identifier will ensure the non-repudiation that this is a particular session or IP address. In case of something like maybe a biometric or a CCTV camera or multi-factor authentication, that only that person can access certain area of that organization or a server room, maybe like if he or she did something and then later denying, it cannot be because we can ensure that using like maybe to enter that room they need multi-factor authentication, like also retina or retina scan, or there can be some CCTV cameras also there, they can log actually the access log as well as login logs, like whenever the system was logged in and who, all that like things. So a suspect cannot be held accountable if they can repudiate the claim against them. So we have to like we'll see more about this in detail. And then availability. Availability is also important. It's part of CIA. So the organization's server or system should actually uh, be available even if there is a cyber attack. Mostly adversaries, they try to bring down the service using different cyber attacks called denial of service attack, DOS attack, or distributed denial of service attack, where they send large amount of malicious traffic to that website, and they will try to bring down the website, or a computer or server where it will consume all the resources and then the system will not work properly. So there are different controls that must be placed to ensure authorized access and also an acceptable level of performance. So performance is the availability. Also, you can say that to maintain availability, we should deploy non-redundancy, redundant servers, maintain reliable backups so that it will prevent data loss or destruction. So CIA priority. Different organization has unique requirement actually. So on CISP exam, most security concepts are discussed in general terms, but in real world, the general concept and best practices doesn't get the job done. So if the individual is coming from a different organization or different environment, IT or non-IT, depending on that, the CIA priority will change actually. So the management team and security team must work together to prioritize an organization's security needs. This include establishing a budget and spending plan, allocating expertise and hours, and they can also focus on the information technology and security staff efforts. So this can be key aspect to prioritize the security requirement. Knowing which tenant or asset is more important than another, it will guide the creation of a security stance and ultimately deployment of a security solution. So, a possible solution to this challenge is to start with priority. The three primary security tenet of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These are the main elements of security. So we should check which should be given more priority. Defining which of these elements is most important to the organization is essential in crafting a sufficient security solution. So sometimes, although such priority focuses on efforts on one aspect of security over another, it is not equally important. For example, sometimes like availability should be the most priority for an industry, for like SCADA or operational technology systems such as programmable logic controllers, supervisory control and data acquisitions, etc., or manufacturing execution systems. So these devices systems used on manufacturing plants and floors, they are reliable, or they focus more into uh, availability. So for them, they follow AIC trade, not the CIA trade. AIC is availability, integrity, and confidentiality, whereas CI is the confidentiality, integrity, and availability for IT systems. So there are other. So each organization decides its own security priorities depending upon like which organization we are from. Then there are different security controls concept like AAA. So AAA is the identification, authentication, authorization, auditing, and accountability, or accounting. You can say auditing and accounting. So these five elements represents the following process of security. So this they will identify, do the identification, authentication, authorization, auditing, and accounting. So identification is a claim of having an identity, whether like he's from a IT department or finance department, having an identity card, or that actually should be anticipated before creating such policies. So identification is important. Based on identification, authentication will be given. So provide that you are that identity, providing that you are that identity, you will be getting the authentication. And then authorization, defining permissions. That means like even after getting authentication, there can be authorization. Some of them might be allowed something or grant certain privileges or denied certain privileges. Then auditing is like recording a log of the event and activities related to the system and the subject. So there will be like auditing, that means recording of log of the event. Then accounting, so that like someone can be held accountable for certain things. Reviewing of log files to check for compliance and violation in order to hold subjects accountable for their action. So auditing is done to record events, and then accounting, during accounting, uh, they can hold accountable, like for example if certain employees they are following certain policies or not, or if there is some violation of something like compliance related, so that they can hold the person accountable for such things.
This
So three
AA
ways.
concept will be same for all the organization, or again it will vary organization to organization.
Mostly like IT, yes, it will be same. Like priority should be given to CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. For like manufacturing industries or like some kind of operational technologies, they will give more priority to availability. Then AAA is like authentication, authorization, and accounting. So under which there are five elements. So how will you give the authentication, and who is going to get the authorization, and how will
Yeah,
hold
that
them
is what if
accounting?
it is a CIA or AIC, but this AA concept will be the same for both, right? First we need to
Yes,
identify. In CIA also we need to
identify the
identify.
priority.
Yeah,
Yes,
again we need to give the authentication, authorization, auditing,
yes,
and acknowledgement, accounting.
right. Then we can hold
Or
accountable. Also, auditing should be done. That means logging.
logging. But logging, when it comes to the logs, transactional logs be won't define the security events, right?
Transaction log, as in like exactly which transaction?
No, normally there will be in the logs there will be like security log, admin logs, and transaction logs, right?
Yes.
So
I mean, like general logs. That means like the occurrences or events.
yeah, yeah, correct, correct. So which logs will be useful for the security events identifications?
Yeah.
Whether
So
transaction logs or else security logs, audit logs.
yeah, so it depends upon like what kind of technology the organization is using. For example, like they have a SIEM solution, or they are just using it as a network operation centers. This is like, for example, there is a organization and they have a application. So they have monitoring the entire network, and then the application also they are checking the performance, monitoring their performance. So everything that is happening in the live environment, like people visiting, doing
Mm,
purchases, all sort of events will happen. Like sometimes, like loading time, is it like loading fast or it is taking more time? If certain softwares, it is actually corrupting something, or like every like performance. So everything is occurrence and events, but a security
okay,
event will be related to, if we focus into like a CIA related, then who is getting access, who is getting authenticated. Like if some user is having logging in, and they should be I mean authenticated after they provide the username and password, and they should have a separation, I mean authorized to have certain areas, not the everything. Like if someone logs in and they could log into the administrator dashboard, then it is like some kind of security event. But that should be properly logged, recorded, so that during auditing, it can be hold. I mean, one can be hold accountable. But actually, yeah, that is different thing. Like SIM accounting
okay,
will be like more into if there are some violation related to compliance related or policy related.
understood.
So accounting is for accountability, and this is just concept of AAA, that is while giving authentication to something, or while giving authorization, or after authorization accounting. Like for accounting, we have to also audit. Then we will hold someone accountable, whether they are like kind of monitoring. So in AAA, there are five elements. These are identification, authentication, authorization, auditing, and accounting. And this is what actually it is. So first, identification is the process by which a subject professes an identity or tells that he is that identity, and accountability is initiated. Then if he is, for example, IT manager or someone having higher privilege, according to that, accountability is initiated. A subject must provide an identity to the system to start the process of the authentication, authorization, and accountability. This is the AAA. So, providing an identity can involve typing in a username, or swiping a smart card, or punching access card, or waving a proximity device, picking a face. Like for example, like some like in order to get know the identity, voice recognition softwares, retina scan, position of your face, hands, fingers for a camera or scanning device. So providing a process ID number also represents the identification process. So process ID, for different processes, we can identify whether this was the process, or like in computer like Windows, if something is happening, this is the ID of that process. That way we can identify the process also, and person also, like individual. So without an identity, a system has no way to correlate an authentication factor with the subject. So then after providing the identification, authorization will happen. Uh, or before authorization, authentication will happen. The process of verifying or testing that the claimed identity is valid is authentication. So authentication requires the subject to provide additional information like, for example, some PIN, passphrases, or like some authentication apps, like so that the person have that thing. Then only that will the person will be authenticated, giving the authentication. The capacity of the subject and system to maintain the secrecy of the authentication factor for identities directly reflect the level of security of the system. If the process of illegitimately obtaining and using the authentication factor of a target user is relatively easy, then the authentication system is insecure. So it can happen due to weaknesses in softwares. Then someone can easily gain like that authentication by guessing something, or like due to some weakness or security gap. So if that process is relatively difficult, then the authentication system is reasonably secure. So in order to secure an authentication system, we can use multi-factor authentication, um, like multi authentication, passwords, as well as OTP, pins, and sometimes retina scan, biometric scans, etc. Identification and authentication are often used together as a single two-step process. Providing identity is the first step, and providing authentication factor is the second step. So without both, the subject cannot gain access to a system. Then there can be different types of authentication like password, pin. Something you have, something you know is also like for example, for authentication, you have to prove that uh, you know something and you have something, and you are something is your identity. You are something. So for that, we have different things that will prove that actually this question. So to provide authentication, we will see like something you know. So if you only know this, if you know whatever it was decided earlier and you know the PIN or the password, that means we can give authentication. Again, something you have. For example, you are using some Google Authenticator app or smart card or token or key, for example, session keys, etc. Then also it will you will be granted authentication. Then something you are. So how it will prove that? Maybe you can lie or you can acquire those things. So if something you are, and it will prove only by your biometric or fingerprint, iris scan, or voice recognition, and so on. So each authentication technique or factor has its unique benefit and drawbacks. Sometimes like it can be complicated, otherwise it's good for security. Thus it is important to evaluate each mechanism in light of the environment before we are actually using or deploying it to determine viability. Then authorization. Once identification and authentication is done, then authorization will happen. Once the subject is authenticated, access must be authorized. So the process of authorization ensures that the requested activity or access to a object is possible, giving the rights and privileges assigned to the authenticated identity. So for example, there is a access card and there are three rooms. One room is for like the marketing department, one room is for the IT department, one room is for finance department. So if you have to prove all this like identity and authentication, after that only you will get the authorization. So that will happen in that card automatically. If you try it in the if a senior member tries, he can enter the three different departments. But if a marketing guy tries to access the finance department with their authentication card, I mean that card, access card, they can't go. So they don't have the authority for that, like, so they don't have the privilege also to enter that door. So similarly in computer terms also, this Authorization will be given, highest authorization will be given to administrators and root level users, and low, like others should not have those privileges. So we should keep in mind that just because a subject has been identified and authenticated does not mean that they have authorized to perform any function or access all resources within the control environment. So if they have the identity, I mean, they have the identity card and the access card, and they are having access to the marketing department, and he or she, if he use that access card to get inside the sales or other department like higher departments like finance department or the IT department, they cannot get inside. So it is possible for a subject to be logged onto a network that is identified and authenticated, but to be blocked from accessing a file or printing to a printer. So this can be done using. They can also use this kind of technology or concept to actually give a pro membership or subscription based membership or software as a service. There actually they will give different authentication. But if, for example, someone doesn't have that authorization to access certain, for example, printing something in a printer, or like kind of installing some softwares without the system admin's permission or password. So that like if they can do or bypass that, then that is actually weakness. So most network users are authorized to perform only a limited number of activities on a specific collection of resources. Identification and authentication are all or nothing aspects of access control. So there are different types of access control. A user may be able to read a file but not delete it, print a document but not alter the print queue, or log onto a system but not access any resource. Authorization is usually defined using one of the model of access control, such as discretionary access control, mandatory access control, role-based access control. So here we have a chapter in 14 or other, like in the upcoming modules we will be able to discuss more about that actually, about access control. So priority, we discuss each organization's security need requires collaboration between management and security team to prioritize the budget, expertise, allocation, and efforts, with a key aspect being the security depending upon the security requirement, often facilitated by initially focusing on the foundation principles of CIA, guiding the creation and maintenance of a comprehensive security solution. That is how it will be decided. And about different access control, so we have discretionary access control, mandatory access control, role-based access control. So discretionary access control is known as DAC. It allows the owner of a resource to control access to that resource. The owner can decide who get access and what level of access they have. commonly used in personal computers and small scale systems where users have a high level of control over their own resources. And they can create some, for example, new users and give limited control, and they can decide. In mandatory access control, it is known as MAC. It is based on the concept of assigning labels to both users and resources. This label determine access permissions. Access decisions are based on security policies set by the system administrator rather than by resource owner. Often found in environment where security is paramount, such as government and military system. They have mandatory access control. Then role-based access control is RBAC. It assigns permission to roles rather than individual users. Users are then assigned to role based on their job functions or responsibility. This simplifies administration by allowing permission to be managed at the role level rather than for each individual. Commonly used in large organization and system where access needs are complex and frequently change. For example, manager will have a certain level of access, or a normal user or marketing like related will have certain accesses in the organization. So these are different role-based access. Mandatory access are for government and military organization where the system administrator will decide the access. And in discretionary access control, the owner of the resource will decide. Especially like it is common in personal computer and small scale system where user have high level control over their own resource. So then comes the auditing. Auditing or monitoring is the programmatic mean by which a subject action are tracked and recorded. So all the actions will be tracked and recorded, and the purpose of being is of tracking is to hold the subject accountable for their actions while authenticated on a system. So if someone is authenticated and then did something bad, like if we don't do this kind of monitoring, auditing, then we can't hold them accountable. Accounting, auditing is recording activity of a subject and its object, as well as recording the activity of core system function that maintain the operating system and the security mechanism. So there are audit trails. The audit trails created by recording system events to logs can be used to evaluate the health and performance of a system. System crashes may indicate faulty program, corrupt device, or intrusion attempts. So here, depending upon like whether it's a security related or it's a hardware related or some kind of technical issue, we will be able to find check the audit trails, logs, and we can record and then verify or find out. Log files provide an audit trail for recreating the history of an event, intrusion, or failure. So three things: event, intrusion as in like a incident, and normal event or some kind of event or some kind of technical issues or failure. Auditing is needed to detect malicious actions by subjects, attempted intrusions, and system failures, and to reconstruct events, providing evidence for prosecution and procedure. It can also help, uh, I mean, it can be a crucial clue or evidence for a forensic investigator who can use it to prosecute the perpetrator and produce problem reports and analysis. Auditing is usually a native feature of operating system and most application and services. Is a native. I mean, most of the application operating system, even it's Windows operating system, we have event viewer. For Mac operating, yeah, Mac and either Linux operating system specifically, we have syslog where we can monitor. So monitoring is a part of what is needed for audit, and audit logs are part of monitoring system. But the two terms have different meanings. Monitoring is a type of watching oversight or oversight, while auditing is a recording of the information into a record or file, so that it can be decided or improved or like learns, we can get some information while auditing, whether it's improving, decreasing, is it a security event, or we can hold accountable. So accountability comes, an organization security policy can be properly enforced only if the accountability is maintained. In other words, you can maintain security only if subjects are held accountable for their actions. So this is what actually accountability is. So while auditing, we the purpose is to hold someone accountable after authentication. Effective accountability relies on the capability to prove subjects' identity and track their activities. Accountability is established by linking a human to the activity of an online identity through the security service and mechanism, and auditing, authorization, authentication, and identification. So with only a password as authentication, there is significant room for doubt. Passwords are the least secure form of authentication because anyone can crack the password, with dozens of different methods available to compromise them. However, with the use of multi-factor authentication such as password, smart card, fingerprint scan, in the combination, there is a very little possibility that any other human could have compromised the authentication process in order to impersonate the human responsible for the user account. This way, we can also do the auditing and accountability, hold the person accountable, that or prove that yeah, this is the correct person and doing these kind of things. Legally defensible security. Point of security is to keep bad things from happening while supporting the occurrence of good thing. So occurrences will happen in any IT system, like lot of like softwares requests, different kind of backend, front end requests, database requests. So all occurrence are not security event. That can be some thing that is actually normal, and sometimes something can be errors, or that can be corrected, and some occurrence can be security event as well. And the point of security, like we are trying to keep the bad things from happening, stopping the bad things from happening. So when bad things happens or a cyber attack happens, organization often desire assistance from law enforcement and the legal system for compensation. To obtain legal restitution, you must demonstrate that a crime was committed, that the suspect committed that crime, and that you have took reasonable effort to prevent the crime. So for that, like forensic investigation is required, where they will collect law clues that will be presented, and they can decide if it is a civil or administrative level crime, and if it is a criminal crime, then those clues can be actually gathered to be presented in the court of law. This means your organization security need to be legally defensible. If you are not unable to convince a court that your log files are accurate and that no other person other than the subject could have committed the crime, you will not obtain restitution. Ultimately, this requires a complete security solution that has strong multi-factor authentication techniques, solid authorization. So this will prove that if something bad happens, then definitely it is that person. We can hold them accountable after giving like identity, after giving identification, then authentication and giving authorization. Then we will audit and then hold accountability also. We have to check in advance, because if something bad happen, if some I mean some crime happened, or if it is an insider threat and he's stealing data, then this evidence would be provided to the court of law, and court of law should this evidence should be acceptable by the court of law. And if we use such techniques, then we can actually will be, or that organization will be legally defensible, defensible, or So for that we need multi-factor authentication. So an organization should evaluate its security infrastructure and redouble its effort to design and implement legally defensible security. So this is how they can defend legally by producing those evidence. Otherwise, if the organization fails to do it, then they will not be able to uh, take assistance from law enforcement agencies and ask for compensation. So we'll continue the remaining of the topic in the upcoming class.
Okay.
Uh, so yes, so any questions so far? Like I will try to give you some presentation. I mean slides. Hopefully, like it will be ready soon, and like few things will be there.
You will share that PPTs with me.
Yeah, after that I will share the PPT. And did you receive some reference material related to CISSP?
Yeah, I have received one material, but that day, first day you have shown me, with the question and answer. It's not
Oh,
like that.
okay.
It's like purely material. So,
Which one? This one you received, or like which one? That purely material one. This one. Is
eighth
it
edition
this?
of my chaplet. 1 minute, let me check the author.
Okay.
Yeah, same one.
Okay, then I will share the other one, like through
Yes.
info, the mail support team.
Okay.
Okay, then Mahesh, good night, and
Okay.
yeah,
Good night.
so
Good
it
night.
will be like
Thank you.
8 p.m. right? Like tomorrow,
Yeah, 8 to 9. Yes. Yes.
8 to 9. Okay,
If you have any, any other was, do let, inform me before that only, so we can plan accordingly. Okay.
okay,
Okay. Thank you. I will also inform if I have any other work, and I will inform
right.
to them.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
no
Thank you.
problem.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you.
Huh, welcome.